Hi, I'm Nick McLeod from the 1 Mile Bakery in Cardiff. Welcome to the Whiz Kids Cook Along. We're going to be doing 4 amazing recipes for you to cook for you and your families. So for this recipe, guys, I want to show you some amazing chocolate chunk cookies. This recipe is really versatile, so once we make our base mix, you can really flavour them with the extra little bits that you like. Maybe some marshmallows, some Smarties, even some honeycomb. So the first thing we're going to do is get our butter on. We're going to use salted butter for this recipe. You don't have to use salted butter, but rather than seasoning it, if you use the salted butter, you'll get that amazing little sweet savoury note, and it's a really nice little trick. And we're going to use 225 grams of salted butter. It sounds like a lot, but we're going to make an awful lot of cookies. So to save on washing up, I'm going to weigh that directly into my pan. I need 225 grams to go in. There we are, perfect. And then this is going to go onto the heat just to melt really gently. If you need a grown-up to help you do that, please be careful. And also, obviously, you could do this in a measuring jug and it could go into the microwave. So my butter's on a really gentle heat, and I'm going to listen to that because we don't want to burn that butter. We're not looking for a burn rosette or a dark butter. We're just going to let it really lightly melt. Keep an eye on that. While we're doing that, we're going to get on and weigh our dry ingredients. So the bulk of our dry ingredients is coming from flour. So I'm going to zero my scales and go in with my plain flour, and we need 500 grams. So we've got 500 grams of plain flour in our bowl, and to that we need to add 1 teaspoon of bicarb and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. This is going to give our cookies a lovely rise, and as they rise up, we're going to give them a little knock and they'll flatten and spread, and we'll get a lovely chewy, crusty exterior. So it's always a good idea to use measuring spoons. Try and be as accurate as you can with your weights and measures. 1 teaspoon of bicarb. And 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And behind me, I can hear the butter, which means it's starting to do its thing. Give that a little move on the pan just to make sure it's not getting too dark as it melts down. And that's our dry ingredients done. And then I'm going to add 2 types of sugar. Caster sugar, plain white caster sugar, and also some light soft brown sugar. Now this is another thing you can play with. The dark soft brown sugar will add a really nice caramel flavour to the cookies, which is exactly what we want. If you wanted to add muscovado sugar or even something like treacle, that will give you even more dark, bitter characteristics. So what we're going to do, as soon as our butter's melted, we're going to leave it to cool for a little bit, transfer it into a new bowl so that it helps it cool a little bit quicker, and then we can go in with both our sugars, and then we're going to also go in with 2 large eggs. Okay, so our butter's fully melted now. Just to help it cool a little bit quicker, we're going to transfer it into a clean bowl. Again, please be careful because obviously these the pans and everything are hot. So if you need a grown-up to help you, now is the time to do that. So our butter's fully melted. We're going to let that cool a little bit, and into it we're going to go in with our 2 different sugars. We've got 220 grams of soft brown sugar, and we've got 200 grams of white caster sugar. If you only have one of those varieties, that's absolutely fine. Your cookies will still be delicious, but you want 420 grams of sugar in total. So in I go with the soft brown sugar. In we go with the caster sugar. And I'm going to use a whisk to bring those together. Now have a little feel of the bowl at this stage, guys. When we're adding our eggs, we want our mixture to be relatively cool. Doesn't matter if there's still a little bit of heat, but we definitely don't want hot so that our eggs scramble when we add them in. But yeah, my bowl's just warm now, so I can go in with 2 large eggs. This is always the bit my kids enjoy. Love cracking eggs. Don't worry if there's a little bit of shell in there as well. And then we're going to go in with a teaspoon of vanilla as well. A nice teaspoon of vanilla. And then again, whisk all those ingredients together. Oh, it's starting already to smell amazing. So you can see we've got a lovely, silky, glossy mix. The eggs are fully incorporated. And now we can go in with our dry ingredients, which is again our plain flour and our bicarb and also our baking powder. So you can start off with a whisk, bringing it together, and then we're going to go to a spatula because very quickly it's going to become quite stiff and difficult to work. So I'll pop the whisk to one side and then we'll go in with a spatula. And keep folding, and it looks like this mixture is never going to come together. But all of a sudden that flour will work its way into the butter and the sugar and the eggs, and you'll have an absolutely delicious cookie dough. So what we're looking for here is really to get rid of all that white flour. If you can see any little bits of white flour left, keep mixing and turn the dough and push it together and really force it. And as this mix cools, it'll become stiff and quite difficult to work. You need to burn off a bit of energy if you're going to eat all those cookies. And there's our base mix. Absolutely delicious. It smells incredible, really lovely caramel flavour, lovely caramel colour, and this is where we get to add our nice bits. So what we're looking for this mix is 300 grams of extras in total. So I'm going for some nice chunky chocolate, which I'm going to break into quite large pieces so that they remain whole, and then you get lovely little melted pockets of chocolate. And I'm also going to go in with some chocolate chips. This is where you can add all your incredible flavours, where honeycomb, smashed up crunchies, Maltesers, Smarties, all those different things that you can add in to make your cookies extra special. So I'm going to break this up, give it a little bash on the countertop, and then we can open it up. I've got 200 grams of chocolate here. So I've broken it up into quite large chunks already. I may need to chop a few up, but it's quite fun crashing and bashing it around. And I'm just going to take some of those larger pieces and chop them into bits about that big. Again, guys, if you are using knives, please be careful. If you're confident using knives, that's brilliant. But if you need mum and dad to help, don't forget to ask. When you're doing this chopping, it's really nice to have different sized chunks. Some small, some large. The little bits will melt down, and I'll give an amazing chocolatey flavour to your cookies. And these larger chunks will remain whole and give you nice little pockets of melted chocolate. Okay guys, so here's my chocolate chunks, okay? You can see I've left some really large pieces in there, but they're going to be amazing in the final cookies. So I've got 200 grams of chocolate chunks, and on top of that I'm going to add 100 grams of chocolate chips. Now it seems like a lot of chocolate, but we really want these to be chocolatey cookies, okay? They should taste and smell amazing. So all this chocolate mix is going to go in with our base cookie dough. And then it's really a case of working it in so everything is dispersed, so every cookie gets a nice bit of chocolate. And just look at that. It smells incredible. I want to eat it already. But we've got to portion this up and then we're going to bake them. So now it's time to get your oven on while you wait to prepare your cookies, which is 160 degrees fan, 180 degrees conventional, or 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And what I've got here, guys, I've got myself 2 trays, baking trays, lined with parchment paper. Now what my plan is today is I'm going to bake 6 of these cookies straight away, and the other ones I'm going to pop in the freezer. This is going to make between 25 and 30 cookies, so a lot of cookies. So unless you want to bake them all in one go, it's a really nice idea to have a freezer stash where you can pull your cookies out whenever you fancy a little treat. Now one of the easiest tools to use to get the same size cookie for every single one is an ice cream scoop. If you haven't got an ice cream scoop and you want to just ball them into about 70-gram portions, round them up in your hands, portion them up and pop them on the baking tray and they'll be just brilliant. But it's a really nice little gadget. Now the other thing you can do with the mix at this point is pop it into the fridge. It can stay in the fridge for 4 hours overnight and your cookies will be absolutely brilliant the next day. When you come back to the mix the next day, you want to let your mix come up just to room temperature to allow you to ball the cookies out a little bit easier. But leaving them in the fridge overnight will mean they're amazing the next day. So I'm going to use my ice cream scoop. I'm going to take a ball, round it off and pop 6 on this tray. And by doing this, I know that they're all going to be pretty much the same size. Now you want to leave some space in between them on the tray because they don't look very big now, but they're going to drop and spread. And if you don't leave that little bit of space, they'll all mix into one big cookie, which is no bad thing. See those chocolate chunks, you know these are going to be amazing. So there we go, guys. 6 perfect cookies on your tray. You really don't want much more than that on one tray. Otherwise, as I said, they're all going to bake into one big cookie. If you leave a little bit of space in between each one, they're going to be just perfect. So these are going to go into our preheated oven for 10 minutes to start. So while our first 6 cookies are in the oven, I'm going to continue balling up the rest of my cookies, which I've started to do already. And you can see here on the tray, I'm putting them much closer than the cookies we were previously, because this tray, I'm going to fill it up and pop them in the freezer. So straight from the freezer, you can pull a cookie out individually and have a little treat whenever you want it by just adding 4 minutes to the cooking time. So our cookies are going to have 10 minutes in the oven, at which point we're going to bring the pan out. And again, don't forget the pan's going to be really hot. So if you're not confident doing it yourself, get a grown-up to help you. And we're going to knock the pan a couple of times on the work surface so that we flatten the cookies out. In the oven at the moment, the bicarb and the baking powder are doing their thing and making them lovely and puffy. We're going to knock them down so the cookies will drop and spread and we'll get a lovely crinkly chewy crust. Oh, so there's my timer. Now our cookies have had 10 minutes so far, so I'm going to bring them out the oven and check and show you on our next little stage. So can you see how the cookies are puffed up? They look really lovely and light, but as I said, what we want to do is knock them back down. So I've got myself a tea towel on the work surface. Going to give them a little bang, turn the pan round, give them a little bang the other side, and you'll see how they'll start to crackle and lose that little bit of height. Now they need to go back into the oven for another 2 minutes, and we're going to repeat the same process again. So our cookies have gone back in the oven for a further 2 minutes, and then we're going to bring them back out and repeat the process of banging every 2 minutes until we reach 18 minutes total cooking time. So while our cookies are in the oven, I've continued balling up the rest of the cookie dough. I've got 22 here and 6 in the oven. So out of all that dough, we've made 28 cookies. So it seems like a lot of ingredients, a lot of butter going in and a lot of sugar, but we've made an awful lot of cookies. So my 6 cookies are in the oven and the rest of them are headed for the freezer. As I said, these will live in your freezer quite happily for a couple of months and you can pull them out wherever you wanted to. If you want to pop them in the fridge, they'll live in the fridge for 3 or 4 days and they'll be absolutely brilliant. And again, you can just pull them out and bake them as and when you need. But they could also be kept in the fridge. If you're baking them straight from the fridge, use the cooking times that we've used today. If they're coming from the freezer, don't forget you need to add 4 minutes to your cooking time. So there we go, guys. These have had 18 minutes. We've got a lovely golden brown color on them. Can you see those little melted pockets of chocolate? They smell incredible. And this is the most difficult bit. Now we've got to wait for them to cool. Leave them to cool on the tray. They don't need to go on a cooling rack or anything like that. But please be careful, because in the middle of these cookies, they're boiling, boiling hot. And if you break them open, you'll really burn yourselves. So just wait. They don't have to be stone cold, but please be careful and maybe check with an adult before you dive in, because they could be boiling hot in the middle. Okay guys, so here we are, the finished cookies. Golden and crispy on the outside, soft and melting and chocolatey on the inside. I hope you enjoy making them, and even more importantly, I hope you enjoy eating them.